And actually I have a feeling I just lost internet connection for a moment there. I think that the main reason we weren't seeing the right search bar was because I'm using the material icon CDN, and it wasn't actually loading the icon because my wireless had dropped for a moment there. But nonetheless, we definitely do have some styles that we need to finish up on this page, but I just want to head back here and confirm that that was in fact the case. So yeah, we can head into forums and then go to like the Python forum. And yeah, I mean, it still looks bad. We need to format it, but this icon is what should be appearing. This little magnifying glass icon, which is getting delivered by the material icon CDN. So let's go ahead and style this search form a little bit better, as well as this button here. I'm going to go to our button section here, and we'll create one called BTN, maybe like forum search. And this is kind of a special button. I'm going to go ahead and paste the styles, and it's special because I basically want it to have no background, so that in a sense we just have the magnifying glass itself. And so we're calling it button forum search. So let's go back into our topic.cshtml, and then up at the top here in the section heading, I'm going to go ahead and change the style from button search here to button forum search. And then in our site.css, I'm going to scroll up a little bit here, and maybe just after some of the styles that have to do with our home page, I'm going to create styles explicitly for our topic page, or we can call it forum topic page. And yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and paste in some styles here as well for that search bar. So the search bar will start out at 10% width, and then on focus we'll increase it to 60% width, and that's going to give us kind of a nice little transition there, and we're also going to change the background color. So let's go take a look. We'll save this, come back here and refresh the page, and so yeah, now we get this kind of nice effect here. Of course, we still need to wire up the functionality in our controller in order to only search for, filtered posts within this forum. So I'll go ahead and minimize the browser. And if we close our styles for the time being now, and we'll close some of these other windows, we'll keep topic.cshtml open, and we're passing this search query term that we fill the box with to the search action on our forum controller. So we had a search action before that we had created for the home page, and we're actually going to use a search controller for that because we're actually going to search through all of our posts. But first, let's go ahead and create the search for our forum, and then we'll follow up with the global search. So I'm going to expand Solution Explorer here, and I'm going to go into our forum controller here. And if you get some kind of message about line endings, just go ahead and say yes to normalize them. Not exactly sure what's happening there, but shouldn't affect anything. I think maybe if this was edited in like the command line somehow, or if Git was doing something maybe. But anyway, all right, we're going to stop the server, and I'm going to go ahead and create that search action result. So we'll collapse this action result and topic, and then we have our private methods section as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put it here. Call it search. And this search will take an ID, which is a forum ID, and then it's going to take our search query. And of course, since we're sending it from a form here, it will be accessible via an HTTP post request only. And so if we think about this before just writing a bunch of code here, what is the intended purpose of having a search bar here at the top of a forum? Well, it's essentially to return the same forum view back, only containing posts that only correspond to some search query that we provide that search form. So we don't need to actually reinvent the wheel or create any type of new view for that. And in fact, we don't really need to create a new model for that. What we should probably do is make use of our topic action result, at least for the time being, and just change it a little bit so that it can either accept all the posts from a particular forum, or only the posts that correspond to our search query. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So this HTTP post method is basically just going to be a light wrapper around a redirect result to our topic controller, and then we're just going to slightly change what we pass our topic controller, its overload, in order to generate that view. So in fact, I'm just going to immediately return a redirect to action. Topic. And we're going to pass it a new object here where we'll pass the forum ID as well as our search query. And so currently topic only takes an ID. And so we're going to modify it. We're just going to also allow it to take a search query. Now, if this search query is null or an empty string, as it might be when we just simply visit the topic page from a link, then we can just completely neglect it and present our view as we always have here, which is to say to just get all of the posts from the particular forum corresponding to this ID and pushing them into a forum topic model. And so the way that I'm going to modify this, it may not be 100% optimal, but it will work for us. What we're going to do is, instead of getting the post directly from the forum, we're going to use our post service to get filtered posts. And this will pass an ID and a search query. And then we'll put those out to a list here. And we're getting a warning here that get filtered posts. There's no overload that takes 2 arguments. Let's F12 over to it. And let's go ahead and pass an ID to it as well as the search query here in our interface. And then we'll head into our post service and find the method get filtered posts. And we'll go ahead and add the ID input to that as well. And so the way that this is going to work is this get filtered post is going to get called from our controller, essentially, our forum controller. So we're going to get the forum for the particular topic. Rather than pull the post off of it, we're going to actually use the same forum ID and then also pass a search query to this post service. The post service can get us the filtered post based on this search query. So the way I think I'd like to set this up is to simply do an if clause in our controller here. And what I'll say if string is null or empty, search query, if it's not null or empty, then we're going to set posts equal to the result from our get filtered posts method. Otherwise, we're going to set post to what they've always been previously, which is simply forum.posts. And so we'll initialize the variable here. So we'll say var posts is equal to a new list, and we need to bring in generic collections here of our post entity model. And so if our search query is not empty, that means we hit this topic method via this form here, which is the only place that we're actually supplying a search query to our topic action. Then we'll use our post service and whatever it's going to do to actually filter out our posts list. Otherwise, we're going to set post equal to our forum.posts. And here we just need to call .toList. Again, if we had a very large number of posts here, perhaps even just a moderate number of posts, we would want to do this a little bit differently, probably not enumerate the list of posts here in the controller immediately, and find some clever way to kind of paginate them out to the page so that we're only loading a small amount of posts at any given time. That's actually just a bit beyond the scope of this series, although I will certainly add it in a future video and show you how to implement pagination and also how to perhaps make this all happen asynchronously on the front end using either like a front end framework or simply just posting back JSON results to our view. But for our purposes to get this working, we're just going to actually pull back all the posts in the forum, enumerate them to a list, and then provide them to our view model. So let's go back and fill out our get filtered posts method. It's in our post service. And what I'm going to do here is just simply say, we'll grab the forum. And we can simply use Entity Framework to find that forum by ID. We can simply return forum.posts, and we'll use a where clause here to do our filtering. And we'll say if the post title that contains our search query, or our post content contains our search query. All right, so that's pretty simple, but what do we have to be careful of here? Let's take a look. Well, what do we want to do if we get, for instance, like an empty or null search query here? Well, what I can do is, rather than just returning forum.posts, we can turn this into a ternary. And so I can say that we'll return if search query is null or empty, then we'll just return all of the posts from the forum. That's one way to handle it. Otherwise, we return the forum posts corresponding to some search query. And I'll just try to format this a little bit more nicely. And so now what about the other case? What if we get the default value for an int here, and so ID is equal to 0? Well, we can handle that case as well. And we'll say, like, if the forum ID is equal to 0, then maybe we'll simply search all posts. And what if the ID here is null or 0? Well, let's just ensure that that shouldn't happen here by taking a look at where we're calling get filtered posts from. So if we go back into our forum controller here, regardless of how we hit our topic controller here, we should be passing in an ID. So we're only going to hit topic controller from a link that's on our forum listing, either from the home page or from our forum index. Or now we can hit topic coming from this search here. And this search is exposed in a form on our topic page, which has an ID on it. And so we should, as far as I can tell at this time, always have a forum ID getting passed to our topic action here. And so in the event that we don't have a search query, we shouldn't even actually go into our post service. But we also handle an empty search query as well. So if somehow get filtered posts gets called with an empty search query, we're simply going to return all of the posts that correspond to this forum ID. All right, so the next thing that we need to make sure that we do is that we actually set our value for our post service. So in the constructor for our forum controller, we have the private field. Now we just need to go ahead and make sure that it gets set. So I'll expand our constructor method, and we'll go ahead and just set it here. And once again, we can of course pass our forum controller, our iPost interface that our service implements. Okay, very good. And we'll just go ahead and add a semicolon here. And now let's go ahead and it looks like it's still not quite happy here. Okay, so let's go ahead and rebuild the solution. And everything's looking good, so we'll go ahead and start the server again, and let's take this search for a spin. Okay, so we shouldn't need to sign in or anything. We're going to head over to forums, and then we made some posts in the Python forum. And so I'm just going to search here for the word another. And so it doesn't look like anything happened. So what we're going to do now is head back into our forum controller here, and we'll set a breakpoint on our post method here for search. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and send this. And our search query is getting passed up, and it looks like our forum ID is also getting passed up correctly. So the next thing I'll do is actually scroll up here, and now I'm going to set a breakpoint on our topic controller action, which should get redirected to here from our search. So now if I just hit F5, we hit our topic controller, and indeed it is passing the ID in the search query. And so I'm going to hit F10 and just kind of step through this. So we get our forum back, and we can kind of check its value here. We can see that it is the Python forum. And then we set this var post to a new empty list of post entity models. And then we have our conditional. So if the search query is not null or empty, which it's not, then we're going to step into this method and set posts to get filtered posts in our post service. Okay, so if I hit F11 here, actually, this is going to take us over actually stepping into the next method, which in this case is get filtered posts, and we're still passing our values properly. And so we get our forum, which is working. And actually, this reminds me, maybe we could structure this a little bit differently, since we already have reference to our forum object either way. But now what we're going to do is we're going to check once again another redundant check here for our search query being null or empty, which it's not. So we should step into this second part of the ternary operator here, this otherwise, and we're getting the post or the title contains search query, or the post content contains search query. And so I'll hit F10 here and F10 again. And so if I hit F10, we get one post coming back, which is what we should expect. And so now we call, I see. So here's our error. We're setting our post variable here to the forum.post to list still, which is actually what we do inside of our post service if the search query is null or empty. So if I had just read this method through rather quickly, then we could have caught it pretty quickly here. But clearly our posts are just getting overset here. So what we're going to do, our post variable is just getting overwritten here with all the posts from this forum. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and stop the server. And since we do our null or empty check on this search query actually inside the post service, what I'm going to do is simply remove this conditional, and then also remove that other reference here to post where we were grabbing it from the forum, because that's precisely what we'll do inside of our get filtered post method when the search query is empty. So okay, so now we get our post from our filtered post method. If we head back here, we can see that when the search query is empty, it is going to indeed return forum.posts back to us. And rather than make a second trip to the database to find the forum, I think I'm going to change the overload on this method here to actually just take a forum entity model. So we'll say this, and then we don't need to actually set it in a variable here. And then where we call get filtered posts in our forum controller, rather than pass the forum ID, I'm going to pass the forum itself, and just make a trip to the database once here from our forum service. And we're getting a little error here because our controller only knows that it's getting something from the iPost interface and not our service that we just refactored a little bit. So we need to find the method here, get filtered posts, and we're going to change its overload so that it takes a forum object, a forum entity model here, as well as our search query rather than the forum ID. Okay, so that should make our controller method happy, and it should also make our post service happy as well because it's implementing iPost. Okay, so let's go ahead and just start the server back up. And we'll head over into our Python forum again. And so we hit the topic page this time. This is actually a good test as well because our search query should be null. And if I hit F10 here, we get our forum, our posts, and our post service should now return all 5 posts actually from that forum, which it looks like it's doing properly. So I'll just hit F5 to continue through. And so we can see all of our posts here. Now I'm going to try to find this post with another in it and hit enter. And I'm just going to hit F5 and we'll hit F5 again. And so now we can see that we're properly getting back this single post with the title another. And we should be able to click on it and go to our post page, which is good. Okay, we could go in a few different directions here. What we just did was some sort of manual debugging, and we kind of just did a very simple test case from our search form in our forum topic area. And I'm going to Control-Shift F9 just to get rid of all my breakpoints now. For methods like this, which are actually doing something maybe slightly more complex than just a simple, than just a bare bones query from the database. But even in that case, we should really begin thinking about doing some testing and actually testing our application. So we're going to be getting into testing in a few videos here, but I would definitely encourage you, once you work through this application and this series, to think about testing early on in your application as you're developing it. If you're doing test-driven development, for example, that's certainly a great approach. Clearly, we're not doing test-driven development in this series. I would like to make a series in the future where we do some test-driven development. It definitely takes slightly longer, but it's actually a very disciplined approach to building software, and it really saves you from having to kind of like manually debug code yourself after you've already written a bunch of code. So the idea is that you write tests in order to understand how to build the methods that make up your software. That's a pretty big simplification of the very large topic of test-driven development, but certainly something that you may want to look into. As far as tests go for this series, as I said, we'll be making some tests very shortly in a separate test project. But for right now, let's go ahead and finish out some of the features that we'll be implementing in our application.